It looks like Morning Dove Cottage is going to have livestock once again. At least a few hens in the backyard. I've been planning all winter to buy chickens this spring and to build a small chicken coop. As I tell everybody, I am not a carpenter, but I've been studying on it all winter, and I'm building a very simple little building, 8 feet square. So hopefully I will be successful, and then I'll be able to order my day-old chicks from a company in Texas that I found that will ship small quantities. I only want 5 pullets and 1 cockerel, so 6 birds altogether to start with, I guess, will be enough. I got the set of plans. I've had several sets of plans that I've been looking at, and the one that I've settled on is one that I got from Lee Valley. It came along with a set of metal parts that you use to put the trusses together for the roof. That was something I was concerned that I wouldn't get right, and with these metal parts and a template that came with them, it looks like it should be fairly simple. So anyway, my materials were delivered today. This gives you some idea, I guess, of what the finished product might look like. This set of plans will build 3 different size buildings. I've chose to build a square one, 8-foot square. And as I said, my materials were delivered, so I'll give you a look at those. Well, this is the pile of materials. It doesn't look like a lot, but boy, that stuff's expensive. By the time I paid the tax on it at the border, I bought this down in Machias, Maine at Ellsworth Building Supplies. By the time it was delivered and the taxes paid on it at the border, you're looking at just about $1,000 worth of material there. And besides that, I've been buying myself tools all winter because I am not a tool person, so the project is not going to be cheap. But if I'm successful at this, I hope to also build an A-frame fiberglass greenhouse a little later on in the summer, so the tools will come in handy there too. Well, the first thing I did to get ready was to get my old lawnmower out, and spent an hour or so going through this area, which was all brambles, raspberry bushes, and whatever else had grown in this area in the last 5 or 6 years. This is the same spot where I used to have a hen house years ago, and also a small barn when I used to keep goats. They were both in such states of disrepair that I had it torn down and a hole dug and buried here on the property about 6 years ago. So now I'm back using the same location to put a small hen house back, mainly because my property is so sloped. I have a large property over 8.5 acres, but it's all got a slope to it, and this particular area is nice and flat because it's the disposal field for my septic system. So this was a man-made flat area, and I've used it for this purpose before. So now that I've got the brambles cleared off of it, I guess I can put the building there. The hens, when they start to grow this summer, will take care of anything else that starts to grow up. They can take it down to bare dirt pretty quickly. So I'm ready to start building the base of it. Hope to get that done in the floor today before I finish. Well, that's the end of day 1. It took me about 4 hours to do this much. I didn't get started cutting some of the floor joists until around 2, and it's about 6 o'clock in the evening now. But I've had enough for one day, and I guess I'm relatively pleased with my first day's effort. It isn't completely level, so I haven't nailed down the floor. It's just sitting on top of the joists. Do a little more work in the morning to see if I can get it a little more level before I nail things down, but I think it'll do for a hen house, especially one that I'm building. The only pressure treated that I'm using is the joists on the floor. They would be things that would be close to being in contact with moisture, snow, water, rain all the time, so I put some pressure treated there, but I didn't want to use pressure treated anywhere that would come in contact with the hens. I don't want it in contact with me, and I can't imagine they'd want it in contact with them. The 2 sheets of plywood that I used for the floor are marine grade plywood, which should last a lot longer than the ordinary construction plywood because of the moisture in manure and the moisture from waterers and that sort of thing getting spilled inside the hen house. That marine grade will just repel the water. It's quite expensive. It's almost $90 a sheet, but I only use 2 of those, and the rest of the plywood that I will be using for sheathing in is just ordinary construction plywood. Well, it's April 15th, day 2 of the chicken coop project. I've got the flooring all nailed down, and I started to frame up the side walls. I don't know how far I'll get with that today. I've had a late start, didn't get started till after lunch. I'm also trying to get things started in my light garden, vegetables and things for the vegetable garden, and they have to be planted now, or they won't be ready when our last frost date arrives. So anyway, there is one of the side walls framed up, and I hope to at least get the 4 of them framed before the end of the day. I'd like to get them standing up, but realistically that may not happen. Well, it's 6 o'clock, day 2. I guess I'm not going to get any sheathing on or the walls stood up, but I have all 4 walls built, the 2 side walls and the 2 end walls, and the one that you can see, if you can make it out there on top, that only has 2 center posts. That's the one that'll have the door in the middle of it. So hopefully tomorrow I will get the sheathing on and get the walls stood up, and I'd like to think that maybe I get the trusses built too, because the day after tomorrow is supposed to be rain. But anyway, I guess I'm not in that big of a rush. Well, it's day 3, April 16th. It was a bit cold earlier this morning, a lot of frost, so I waited to come out around noontime, did some other chores this morning, but I'm starting to put sheathing on the walls. I got 1 sheet on this first side wall, and I'm pleased to say it was relatively square. I was able to knock it into shape and make it square quite easily, so far so good. Now I have to cut a piece for the bottom part of the wall. Well, that's one side all sheathed and all of the nails driven everywhere. Now to see if I can stand the thing up. Well, there's one wall stood up, and it's not as difficult as I thought it would be all by myself, getting an 8-foot long, 6-foot high wall standing. I see where I can do a couple of things to make the next one a bit easier. I should have had the brace attached before I started raising it, and I didn't. Anyway, I got it up there, nailed in place, and it's fairly true. Level on the vertical and the horizontal, so at least this thing will have 1 level wall. Well, there's the 2 side walls up. It hasn't been as hard as I thought it would be. I think things are fairly square. Maybe not completely level, but fairly square. I guess if I get the 2 end walls stood up and nailed into place, that'll be it for today. It's getting kind of late in the afternoon. I don't think I want to tackle the rafters today, and tomorrow's going to rain, so it'll be another couple of days before I get back at it, I guess. Well, there's 3 walls, 1 more to go. You don't sheathe the end walls until later on, which I guess has finally made sense to me. Anyway, the wind is starting to pick up, and it's starting to get colder, and it's clouded over, so I get the other wall up. I guess I'll call it quits for today. Well, it's the end of day 3. I'm about to call it quits. I'm tired for one thing, but it's getting windier and colder here too. The front wall here that doesn't have as many studs in it, that's the wall that's going to have the door. So the door will be in the center. Next thing to do is to put the rafters on. I guess that'll have to be in a couple of days' time.